Hi there, Blunty isn't available to do his usual on-camera introduction to this game review because he has a headache that's threatening to increase the pressure inside his skull so much that his precious brain goo may very well be splattered all over the walls in a small explosion that will not be very loud but will certainly sound kinda moist. In his stead, I am here as an appropriate proxy to introduce this, the Pondapop game review of Gears of War 2, a game developed by Epic Games and published by Microsoft and available exclusively on the Xbox 360. Having never actually played the original Gears of War game, I'm chainsawing my way through its sequel Gears of War 2 from a fresh perspective, so you won't hear me comparing it to its predecessor and I'll only be focusing on the experience Gears 2 presents. In brief, Gears 2 is a third-person perspective shooter that has you looking over the shoulder and controlling the main hero, Marcus Phoenix, who at first glance is your typically tough, heavy-armoured and gruff Space Marine type guy, who you see in almost every game of this genre. Your job is to wander around, sometimes alone, sometimes with a computer-controlled partner or squad, and brutally murder as many big, ugly beast/monster/genetic experiments/alien things as you can, because they currently threaten humanity for some reason. Again, nothing new in this genre. My initial expectations of this game weren't high, to be honest. I'd heard a lot about the first game, and I knew the excitement was high for the refinement that often comes with a sequel of a shooter, but I also knew it was a tactical stop-and-pop shooter, meaning that in battle you have to find and shoot from cover instead of doing what I have historically loved most about playing first and third person shooters, and that is the old run and gun, sprinting face first into battle, screaming wildly with psychopathic glee as I leap and frag my monstrous and unsuspecting enemy in an attempt to double their body weight by injecting them with as much ammunition as I had. In Gears of War 2, that kind of running and gunning attitude is far more fatal than in most other shooters, and this is a lesson I learned quickly. So, being forced to change my playstyle merely to survive is something I was initially resentful of. However, after about 20 minutes or so, I got used to playing the game how it wanted me to play it. I started to instinctively look for useful cover and think a bit more tactically about how to best ventilate my enemies with express-delivered ammunition. And quite suddenly, I was enjoying the experience far more than I had expected to. The gameplay in Gears 2 isn't mindless warfare. It has a kind of focus and intensity that is only betrayed by the quite linear level design. You don't have many options for trying to flank or snipe your enemy unless the level is specifically and carefully designed to lead you to one. Occasionally you're provided with a choice to make, usually in the form of selecting the high road or the low road, while your teammates take the other option, but these forced choices seem unnecessary, as minutes later the two paths reunite again to a single path anyway. Almost every level is designed so your only option is to run from one piece of cover to the next one down the singular path, and it feels a bit restrictive and a little claustrophobic. That said, the level design is generally wonderful. The many and varied environments offered as you play through the campaign look absolutely stunning, packed with beautiful detail, and each has quite a distinctive and fresh feel from the previous, which helps alleviate the risk of boredom from the otherwise linear gameplay. You've got everything from the classic destroyed city landscape to tight enclosed corridors, open areas where you're quite sure you're going to get sniped at any moment, and even the internal organs of a massive worm. Yes, you heard me correctly. At one point, you and your entire squad, including your frickin' escape helicopter, gets eaten by a giant worm. And you have to give some of its internal organs a chainsaw-rectomy in order to escape your wormy doom. The weapons are the usual fare for this type of game. You've got pistols, shotguns, semi-automatics, grenades, sniper rifles, and of course, the iconic Lancer, which is an automatic rifle with a chainsaw built into it for close-up melee combat. And if that sounds unnecessarily juvenile and brutal, you're right. And it's every bit as mind-blowingly fun as it sounds if you manage to get close enough to an opponent to split them in half to the satisfying blood-soaked squishy symphony of the roar of your chainsaw gun. The Lancer is also used to remove other inanimate objects in your way too. But once again, this is all linear and part of your pre-planned, preset path, and taking the chainsaw to other objects disappointingly doesn't do much of anything. Another fun choice for dispatching the enemy is to fatally wound your opponent, run right up to the broken, bloody, fleshy sack that was once their functioning biology as they attempt to crawl to medical assistance, and then play a quick game of I bet I can punch you in the back of the head from the inside until they stop twitching. The story isn't very inspired or even very revealing, and it's filled with cliches and stereotypical plot, But it's decently written and the voice acting is well done, even if the lines they're given to speak are hilarious in sometimes unintentional ways. There is humour written into the dialogue and it usually works, giving me a decent chuckle every now and again, but at other times I just had to cringe at the awful stereotyping and uninspired tacked-on drivel, like the typical rookie on his first frontline mission who you have to babysit, who inexplicably went through boot camp without learning at all how not to do simple things like not drop your gun like some sort of brain-damaged orangutan with amputated thumbs. Or your teammate Dom, constantly whining about trying to find his wife or girlfriend or possibly a hooker who owes him some money. I don't know, because hey, who plays a game like this for a well-crafted plot, originally written characters and insightful storytelling? Nobody, that's who. We're all here to fire off the net worth of a small nation in ammunition, take the most awesome gun ever imagined and chainsaw some ugly monsters into small, wet chunks of kitten food. Overall, the gameplay feels very well polished, the controls are great, the graphics are great, the audio is lovely, and genuinely interesting selection of varied environments. The whole experience feels nicely fine-tuned, and if you can ignore the clumsy plot, you're in for one hell of a game experience. I'd hazard a guess that this game, like most of gaming history's truly great shooters, will have a long life as a multiplayer game, of which it has several variations and includes something annoyingly lacking from many other shooters, and that's the inclusion of bots to fill out the roster if you don't have quite enough players, or just wish to play as a team against the computer, or even if you're completely friendless and wish to play the multiplayer modes all on your lonesome. Gears of War 2 isn't groundbreaking, but it takes off what you already love, knocks off some but not all of the rough edges, and gives it some pleasant refinement. And if you've enjoyed any shooters in the past, it's probably a safe bet you're going to enjoy this one too. On the scale of skip, rent or buy, Gears of War gets a buy from me.
I'm coughing up blood that ain't mine. Control! Delta here. We just... I don't know where to even begin, but... just get us the hell out of here.